president and his party ruled on the back of corruption into office. And I guess we can list a number of things that have happened both in the past government, which dominated the discussion this year, and things that have happened this year, which also under this government, which also dominated the media discussions, which all border on corruption. Let me start with Afia. What for you were the corruption stories this year?
I think we can't do this yearly review without looking at this A+.
And by the way, there are so many people watching and listening to us, watching us on the JoyNews channel, those watching on DSTV, those watching online on JoyNews Live, and those listening to us on Joy 99.7 FM. This is the year's review. If I may, I will read some of your comments after I have heard from Afia on what stories dominated the discussion for her as far as corruption is concerned.
And like I said, I think we can't do this yearly review without looking at this major allegation of A+ against some presidential staffers, accusing them of collecting money and all that. This matter later went to the CID, Headquarters for Investigation, was subsequently dealt with. I think I would rather lump that up with the allegation of seats for sale, you know, at the Ministry of Trade, the expatriate awards issued by Millennium Foundation, and then the Hawa Kumsin issue, which ended the year, which for me was a very terrible way for MPP to end 2017. I think in 2018 to be a very fine opportunity for the president to act on it. I understand that the president has a reshuffle list that he's keeping very close in his, to his chest. I hear he's in his jacket, and it's not, you know, allowing anybody to influence him on that. I also understand that people are panicking, you know, so they have resorted to consulting pastors and chiefs to plead on their behalf so that they don't appear on the reshuffle list. But for me, 2017,
what do reshuffles produce?
I'm not very sure. Maybe a sense of urgency. What you have in the corporate world is performance review, which I think every government should have.
That's a question because I doubt
if it will do anything.
These reshuffles, they really do.
I think it creates a sense of fear that somebody is watching.
Let's start with the issues
that somebody is checking.
Let's start with the issues you have listed, or you want to lump them up together?
Yes, I think I want to, because they are all corruption allegations. And I say that for 2017, I think MPP has lost the opportunity to deal with some of those issues and give a sound warning, or to create an indication that it is ready, as the president said in his inaugural address, his State of the Nation address, to deal with corruption and deal with it well.
Yes. So you go on.
In the A+ matter, this matter went to the police CID for investigation. Yeah. I would have preferred that the matter would have been forwarded to the CHRAJ.
Well, but CHRAJ could do the investigation themselves, or somebody had to send a complaint.
I would have preferred that somebody did. CHRAJ they didn't even bring a report. Did you see a report on it?
Didn't they do and clear them of any?
That was the police. That was the police report. That was the CID. Police CID.
What did the CHRAJ work on? What did CHRAJ work on Asenso and Jinapo?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember. Yeah. I remember that. That was, later on, they brought a report. Yeah, later on, they submitted a report. But I think that
sticking with that, Afia, I think there's a fundamental question we have to ask. Are we such suckers for bad news that when an allegation is made against someone, we almost always pray that it is true? That even when investigations are conducted and the person is exonerated, we still insist that no, the investigation is wrong, the person is guilty. And I say this on in every government. Anytime an allegation is made, it seems that a position is taken that it is true. Anything contrary is false.
I think that would be an unfair
generalization. Do we have such a default,
it's not a Ghanaian thing.
Reasoning?
You have to distinguish between the pressure that the opposition brings to bear on some of these allegations.
If you're telling me one corruption allegation that investigation has exonerated, that people have accepted the report.
Oh, I think in that sense, so Boachi issue, people have accepted.
But you just cited it as a corruption issue.
I'm citing it as an allegation. That's why I'm saying that these are opportunities. That's why I gave you 3 cases 3 issues.
And
that
you said you
case,
didn't think that the police ought to have investigated, which means you were not satisfied with the CID's report.
No, I thought that they shouldn't have even meddled in it. I thought that
but this is the police, it's not meddling.
Independent. Oh, you and I live in Ghana. We know the position of the police and how you even understand this recording that later came. You remember there was a recording that was leaked by the allegedly that it was the CID boss's voice, which she denied vehemently that the voice had been doctored. So in order to remove all these allegations, I thought that the proper thing would have been straight away the matter goes to CHRAJ. CHRAJ deals with it, a report is released, and that settles the matter. Take for instance the recent issue that CHRAJ published the report. I think that CHRAJ is a more credible institution, an institution that has proven over the years.
For you instances, examples when CHRAJ has dealt with a matter and the report has been totally rejected.
By who?
And consistently.
By who?
It happens.
By who? By the opposition. What do you expect from the opposition? The opposition is doing a propaganda job. You can't blame them. That's what I'm saying, that distinguish between the general views of the public and the propaganda that often is done by the opposition. When the NPP is in opposition, they will do same. When NDC is in opposition, they will do same. That is not the general view of the population.
Let me come
to
something.
To a large extent, is very credible. You remember in 1996, was it 1996 or 1998, the Emil Short, then the head of CHRAJ, did a report on PV Obeng, Ibrahim Adam, and co. And there was a white paper that was released by President Rollins at the time, clearing the people, the suspects, those who had been cited in the CHRAJ report. So over the years, whether opposition does propaganda or not, CHRAJ has proven itself to be to a large extent very credible.
Let me come to something. What for you were the corruption stories that stood out in the year?
There are the stories that you heard that you couldn't believe that they would be true.
And that they can happen.
That they would be true. That which one did we start with? I think we started with the security equipment that was to be procured, you know, by
the
National
NCA,
Security,
National
but done through the
Communication
NCA,
Authority,
where the allegation started as $8 million that was involved, and that's a lot of money, isn't it? And then later we heard it was supposed to be $6 million instead of $8 million or so.
Yeah, because the actual contract sum was $6 million.
Okay.
But then other things.
Yeah, $2 million.
A private company was engaged to bring the company that will supply the equipment, and that private company's fee was $2 million. So making it $8 million.
Now, when I heard the amount involved, and the story was told that this is how people just plan to fleece the state, I was like, so let's see how it goes. Then we heard of the Standard Authority?
No, Samson, let's stick with even the NCA one. Now we know that the people are in court.
Yeah, you know, those that were huge and baffled me because of the quantum involved. I just wanted to list them.
Okay,
you know.
Let's go.
Then from the Standard Authority in, is it building a building project?
50 million Ghana
yes,
cedis.
and someone, you know, takes a kickback of
$1.2 million.
Yes, and the contractor is unable to continue any further with the project and gets stranded. And later we are told that the project, which was supposed to be for a training facility or whatever, is to be turned to a hotel, and you didn't get the story, what exactly was going on. Then, when we thought those were huge, Baumia, you know, springs in almost $14 million. The
cost of his house.
For a, you know, vice presidential residence. And you're like, so what's going on really? 14 million? And he asked the question, will the gates be made of gold? Will the pavement be made of gold? Now, I'm coming to a point which you realize that it may not be too healthy. The politicians may have to be a lot more careful in how they put out these stories. Then we had snakes. Just when you thought you've you've heard what you may never hear. Then we had SNIT and its the
OBS system.
OBS, suit. We heard that one too was supposed to be. You initially had about 90, you had about 80, and then eventually the figure was beaten down to 70 thereabout, and then sometime later you're hearing $66 million. Right. Yeah. Now, there's a learning I have taken from all of them. With the exception of the Standard Authority one, which it appears they are not clear denials. It appears the evidence is such incontrovertible, so you would have expected that the process to prosecute would have been quick. It does appear we're waiting for special prosecutor. Special prosecutor's bail has been made ready, and Parliament has sanctioned it through amendments. It is taking the drafting departments that are supposed to put all the amended portions, bringing them together. It's taking them almost a month to do that. So as we speak, the president has not assented to a special prosecutor's law. So we don't have a law yet. I understand that he's going to do that before we close the year. But today is what?
So he has a day.
Yeah, let's hope he's able to do that. But we know that it's not a panacea. Then you learn of information that cast doubt. Of course, the ambulance matters too came up.
Yes.
Okay.
And then burst.
Yes. Information that brings, a bit of, puts you in a bit of a doubt as to the original stories that were being churned out. Because you hear the OBS story proper, a lot more detail from those who are involved.
Kojiangsen did that.
Yes. And you hear that story and you're like, so what was the purpose in putting out
the original information?
The original information that those who put the original information out are no more willing to stick by it, as it were, to defend it. And the security matter too, like you said, that one now has been put in court. The board members who were involved and the national security coordinator is he?
And the chief executive himself at the time.
Yes.
They are in court now.
Right, they are in court.
In fact, there are those who say that the government just ran to court because the government itself was on the ropes over this $100,000
It needed to give a semblance that, and also it needed to end the year on a note that it has been able to put something in court. That of all the corruption allegations it made, and allowed the media to do the trial,
to feast on them,
to do the trial, so to speak, that Afia Money is not too excited about. But how could I forget about the matters that regarded the
robbing the assemblies,
salacious, and you go through some of them and you can't imagine
that they happen in this town.
Yes, that they go on. But you see, I'm saying that in the end, there's a learning I'm taking, that too often, particularly when there's a change of government, we get to hear so much about how the state was fleeced. And then through the prosecution processes, you find that there is very little substance
to sustain the claims
to the stories. And the state is unable to secure convictions for the people that it puts in court. So I'm only hoping that, like you say, it looks like we have a desire to want to see that all the stories that are told are true, but they are told with such passion. So with such passion, and some of them with some evidence, documents that you have no difficulty
accepting,
wanting to believe that these actually happen. Now, when little bits of similar acts of corruption, allegations, hit the government itself, now you begin to realize that it seemed to now dawn on them that they have to be a lot more careful in how they treat others when it comes to issues of allegations of corruption. Okay,
that no one has monopoly over just raising the allegations and finding something to allege that somebody has been engaged in some impropriety.
And I've heard people say, well, it takes time to investigate to be able to put a solid case forward so that you don't get people not getting convictions and people getting acquitted in the process. I say we have had that lazy talk for too long. The amount of information that the managers of the ship of state put out and the passion with which they defend them as clear evidence of corruption doesn't tell me that state attorneys are so dumb that they need a year to prepare dockets that can secure conviction for the people that are alleged to have engaged in those acts of corruption.
Unless what we are told in the media is not borne by the facts.
Right.
And that it's being done for mischievous purposes.
By the facts that those who put those facts out defend.
Absolutely.
You see, otherwise I say it's been too long. Most of those issues should have been in court. We should have seen some, process of trial began. We should have heard some witnesses and gotten to
maybe we will hear a lot more. Sadly, I thought that we were doing this up to 1 o'clock. I've been told that we have to end at 12. I have 4 minutes left. Thank you. Something is happening. I have to pick a few comments, and then I have 3 minutes left. I'll split that between the three of you to give me your projection for 2018. What you project will dominate the headlines. This is Robert Ayite. He says, I'm watching live from Thailand. Okay, that's interesting. This is Gilbert Zananab. Anybody who is able to speak confidently on radio thinks jobless graduates are incapable of delivering. How many of you have employed and assessed our graduates to come to this conclusion? Shaking my head. Yes, there is a problem with overdependence on theory-based learning with less attention to technical education. It's a systematic problem. Don't blame our graduates. Most of these lads in the media whine too much. Except that this is not wine, the spelling is wrong. Akwesi Frimpong. Why Ghanaians always scared of confronting bold decisions that come with challenges? Before JF Kennedy of America announced America going to space in years, where is this one? In years, he knew they didn't have such huge money to spend on this, and yet they went ahead with this. This is Ahen Echampo. He says, Shamima, you are contradicting yourself. I love your analysis, but I think we have to come to understand and appreciate what it takes to formulate policy and implement them in ways that are impactful and effective. I admire you, Samson. Those are so many comments. Charles Thompson, listening to the discussion from an objective point rather than a subjective point will help viewers to enhance their knowledge and understanding of events. There are some other allegations in some text that I cannot read, but those are great comments. Afia has just disappeared. I still have Samson and Shamima with me. I have 2 minutes. I'll split it between the two of you. Starting with Shamima, what are your projections for next year in terms of news?
Well, I think that we've been given some indications, monitoring the media, the issue of prosecutions of alleged corrupt former officials will definitely be in the news or should be in the news, as we have been giving indication. But for me, what will also be interesting is a government that also shows us that it's capable of scrutinizing its own appointees when some of these allegations of corruption come up against it. I'm part of the Corruption Watch program that JoyNews is working with CDD and others. And it is real that we as a nation must expose corruption when we see it, however we see it, in ways that we think will draw attention to it. Sometimes we cannot wait because perception of corruption is as real as corruption itself. Because if you're acting in ways that looks like you're being corrupt and shortchanging the masses, then you should be exposed. We must rally ourselves behind the action, and we must expects institutions mandated to deal with some of these things to take the necessary action. Wow. But in all of this, I'm looking for a year of progress. I'm looking for a year that would allow me to feel the progress in my pocket, to, like a precarious says, to eat what I like, to be merry and be happy. Amazing. So let's hope that the nation delivers.
What are your expectations for the news year 2018?
Unfortunately, Malik, you put a lot of issues that we have skipped, right?
Unfortunately, unfortunately, I thought we were doing this up to one.
Right, a lot of issues that we have skipped, and you got me sitting up and preparing for quite a good number
sadly, we couldn't do Europa.
And those that
Ghanaians living abroad can now vote.
Law biased. Now, I believe that we ought to be looking at things from a certain perspective. I'm sure the government is aware that the same manner in which they were very vocal and made sure that they were keeping the Mahama government on its toes, I'm sure they may get even more than that. So they are aware that Ghanaians are watching them and that they will be extremely careful. So far, some of the stories that have come up about wrongdoing, inappropriate, conduct, and issues of allegations of corrupt acts do not give a good signal. Yes, they are trying to react to some of them and give indication that they are all phony. They are not true. But you know what? It doesn't work that way. They know that perception is very important in the politics, and that even some of the issues that they majored on in their campaigns were only issues of perception. They were not real. There were no evidence of some of those things.
And yet they harped on them.
They harped on them so well, and it won them a lot of...
So they can't wish away similar claims against them.
So they ought to be doing right by Ghanaians. And they ought to know that when they do wrong, we will come at them. Ghanaians now have been even better emboldened not to be spectators, but to be citizens.
Amazing. On that note, I have to say a very, very big thank you to Samson Ladi Anyanini. He is host of News File, a lawyer. Samson, thank you. And of course, I had to drag Shamima out of her house very early today. Shamima Muslim Al-Hassan is the convener for Alliance for Women in Media. Lady and gentlemen, and of course, Afia Pokua was here. She's editor of Adum News. This has been the Year in Review 2017. I am Malik Abbas Dabu, and we have been live on the Joy News channel, also on DSTV channel 421, and on Joy 99.7 FM. Until we meet again, you keep safe. Bye-bye.